Hi, I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and this is video number 2 of the Celtic Knot Bag Crochet-a-long. Last week in video 1, you learned how to make cord 1 and cord 2. This week we're going to learn how to put them together to make a Celtic knot square like this one. This square is about 5 inches across both ways, and it requires a total of 4 cords per square. So this project will have 2 Celtic knot squares, and each square uses 2 cord 1s and 2 cord 2s. All the details will be explained in this video. I'm going to show you how to weave these cords together. I'll show you where to get the diagram and how to use it. I'll also show you all the weaving supplies, and then we're going to crochet around the edge of the completed knot to make this nice square that will be ready to add to our bag design. So if you like this project, make sure to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to click to subscribe. Let's get started. Before we start weaving our Celtic knot, let's review the supplies you'll need to weave the Celtic knot. First, you'll want a piece of cork board. That's about 1/4 of an inch thick. My piece here is 12 inches across, but you could have something smaller, maybe 6 inches. Half of this would be fine. I also like to put a piece of styrofoam underneath, so when I put pins through this, it doesn't damage my work surface. You'll want some straight sewing pins. I found this really cute hedgehog pin cushion. I'll put the link to it in the description below, and it came with a whole bunch of butterfly pins that are actually pretty good quality for what it is. You'll want a tapestry needle to sew some of your ends, and then you'll want a printout of the Celtic knot diagram. Now, there is a file that you can download for free on my blog at celticknotcrochet.com, and you'll find this and this one. So you could see they are the same exact thing, except this one is flipped and for left-handers. So some of these stitches that you made with the cords create a different opposite shaped cord if you're left-handed, but you pretty much do the same exact thing. I've just flipped everything around for you so you don't have to try to figure it out. So lefties, make sure you use the left-hander diagram, and right-handers, you'll use this one. And I recommend printing it out in color if you can, because the color coding really helps weave the knot. And if you can't print it out in color, print it out black and white, and then use a marker or colored pencil to color in the different paths on the knot to match mine. And of course, you'll also want your 4 cords. Now, I made my cords 4 different colors to match the diagram to help you understand how to weave them. So if you like the look of all the different cords with different colors, go for it. But I like what it looks like when every cord is the same color, because then you can't tell how this was woven, with 2 long diagonal cords and then 2 rectangular cords. Okay, now before we begin, I recommend first pinning your diagram in place, and then you'll want to just take a look at the diagram so you understand everything that's there before we cover it up. So you'll see that there's a black asterisk, there's a black square, there's a black circle, and a black triangle. Those are all the different places that you will start each of the cord. And then this up here, A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3, that is to help when we start adding stitches around the knot to turn it into the square motif. So you'll need these points of reference later. We're going to start here at the black asterisk and weave along the pink path first. So take your finger and just follow that pink path so it goes through your brain where it's going to go. Then we're going to start here at the black square and follow the blue path around. Next, we're going to start at the black circle and follow the green rectangular path. And lastly, which is the trickiest part, we're going to start at the black triangle and go around the white path. Now, if you notice, all of these paths have alternating over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. So that is what makes this a nice locking Celtic knot, is those alternating patterns of over and under. But while you're weaving, a lot of them will not alternate because not all the cords are there. Here's a little tip for you as you work on weaving your Celtic knot. You can print out a second Celtic knot diagram to sit next to your work. So as things get kind of covered up, you can look over here and see the diagram clearly. Grab one of your cord ones and this is the beginning where we have the edging yarn tails, and we're going to line up the beginning of cord 1. The end of cord 1 has this short little part at the end. So the beginning is the long stretch before you get to the turn. And you want to pin that down along the pink path, and you can pin as many times as you want. The pins act like an extra hand for you. And I keep the yarn tails on because I want to use them later to help me sew everything together. And right here, where the ends of the cord meet, this is going to be hidden under our last cord. It's going to come across and cover up that join, and you won't see it on the front of your project. And again, you can put the pins wherever you want, but I recommend using the pins to keep your cord on the path that it matches. So if you don't pin it, see how this could come over here, and then it's going to get confusing later as we start adding the other cords. So I would make sure that the pink cord is on the pink path. Now what I recommend for this project and this knot is to take your yarn needle and one of the dark yarn tails and sew together the cord ends. Right now, before you move on, normally I do this at the end of weaving the knot, but I've discovered that this knot can be tricky with these little ends coming apart, and by sewing together this first one, it just helps us get ready for the rest of the knot. So I sewed that together, and I can even tie the yarn tail in a nice knot, and later I'll weave this yarn tail in on the wrong side of my project. So I'll just tuck those out of the way for now. And again, make sure that my knot cord is on the right path. And now I'm going to do the blue path with the black square. Same thing. I have 2 bends in my cord. So I'm going to start with the long end and place that down here on the black square. And I'm going to follow the arrow and go this way. So now I have another cord here, so I want to pay attention and peek underneath so I can see the blue is going under the pink, and then it's going to go over the pink. So that's what I want to do.
under the pink, and then over. And of course, all of these cords, you want to make sure that you have the right side facing. And then the bend in the cord should match up right here with this bend. And I'll pin it in place. Now we'll continue to follow along the blue path. Now you see here it says it goes under the green, but we don't have that cord here yet, so we don't have to pay attention to it. We just need to watch where it goes in relation to this cord. So I peek and I see the blue goes under the pink, and then it goes over the pink. So same order as what we did before. Under the pink, make sure it stays right side facing, and then over the pink. Okay, and then my second bend in the cord should match up with the bend right here. Now if you'd like, you can wet block your cords. Helps the fibers relax, especially if you have very tight tension, you might want to do that. But the cords are pretty stretchy, so you can stretch them into the path and the right shape. Okay, so there we go. We have the second one completed, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew these two ends together so I don't have to do it later, and it'll help my project look its best. So now I have cord 1 and cord 1 woven and sewn together right where the cord ends meet, and now I'm ready for the first cord 2, and I'm going to go along this path, the green, and it's going to start up here right underneath at that black circle, but the ends are going to be hidden under this cord. And to make sure that you start at the right spot, if you look at your cord 2, you have 4 bends for the 4 soft corners, and then you have this long end at the beginning and a short end at the end. So we want to start with this side with this longer bit here and with the edging yarn tails. So I'm going to place that underneath so it lines up with that black circle but under the cord at the blue path. And you definitely want to pin the beginning here so it doesn't come out while you're busy weaving. And then I peek and I see that the green path goes over the blue path, so I'm going to go over like this. Alright, and now I'm going to look at the rest of the green path. Again, I come over here and the white path cord is not here yet, so I can ignore that, but now I want to see what's happening. Okay, the green goes over this one, and then it's going to go under this one. So let's do that much. Over, under. Now here's a little tip for you. If you're finding it hard to get your fingers to go under the cords, you can take your yarn needle and thread your yarn tails that are at the end of the cord through the needle, like so. And then this can help you go under and over. So we were going over this one, and I need to go under here. So I'm just going to use the needle to help me pull the cord through that spot. And I'll pull all the way through until the bend in the cord matches up with the bend right here. You can see right like that. Okay, now I'm going to peek again at the green path, and I see that I'm going to go under the blue. See how it goes under the blue and then over the blue, which of course we want because this is where we joined these two cord ends. So let's go under first, and then we're going to go over. So as you saw here, make sure it's flipped so it's facing the right way. Get the other yarn tails out of the way. We went under twice in a row, but we did that because that white path is not filled in with a cord yet. Okay, so you'll see what I mean. So just don't worry if you do 2 unders in a row. As long as you're following the diagram and following my example here, you'll be fine in the end. So when I get to a place where there already are some pins, I take them out and just replace the pin down to hold this new cord in place. All right, so we're almost finished with the green, and I'm going to look here. Some of these pins are in the way a little, but I want to pick up that green cord again. So the white is not here, but we do have the pink. So we're going to go along and we're going to go over the pink, then under the pink, and then around the last bend and meet up with where we began. Again, I can use my needle to help me weave. So I'm going over and then under. And you just have to adjust things a little bit. Remember, things are stretchy. I'm going to take the needle off of the end here. And right where we started, remember, there at the black circle, going to make sure all the yarn tails are there and tuck that in like so, and put the pin there. All right, so we're almost finished. We have one more cord to weave. Okay, so we're ready to do the last path. Now, because this is the last path and we have all other cords already woven, this will be an alternating under-over path. So it's going to start here at the black triangle, and we're going to go around like this, following the white path. Okay? So again, remember, here's your rectangular, rounded rectangular cord. We have the long end and the short end before each of those bends. So we want the long end to start. And I'm going to tuck these yarn tails under. I know some people might think they get in the way, but to me it's worth it because later on we're going to use these yarn tails to help us sew all the cords in place so your bag is nice and secure and strong. So here we go. I'm there at the black triangle and I'm ready to start weaving. All right, so let's peek at the diagram. I see that this is going to go over the pink, so I have that right here. Then I'm going to go around the corner here. So peek underneath, I'm going to go under the green, and then you can see it right here. I'm going to go over the blue, then under the next blue, then over the next green. All right, so just trust me if you're getting a little confused because yours are all the same color. We have 4 cords here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to go under, over, under, over. Because this is the last cord, we can do the alternating. And since it's kind of tight, I'm going to use the technique of putting the yarn tails, another good reason to keep the yarn tails on your cord, on my needle. Okay, so under, over, under, over. Okay, so I just wove the needle and then I'm carefully pulling the cord through. It did get flipped, so you'll just have to make sure, same thing, you want to make sure your right side is showing. And I pull till that corner matches up here and put a pin there. Alright, so now we're looking at our next section of this last cord. So we want to follow the white path. So we peek underneath and we see that it goes under, and then right here we're going to go over. Now remember that tip I gave you earlier that you can use a second diagram next to the one that you've already pinned down to help you. So if we look, we just worked right through here, and now this part right here is this right here. And it's hard to see on our diagram since we have all our cords built up. So if I look here, I see that I'm going to go under the pink and then over the pink. And I'm going to pass over where we join the pink cord together. All right, so keep this on hand. If you print out 2 copies, it could help you see where you're going with your knot. So I'm going to go under and then over. Get those yarn tails out of the way. See, like that. And I match up the curve at each rounded edge. So again, here we are, we're heading this way, and now it's going to be just like this one up here. We're going to go, there are 4 cords right here, see them? 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to go under, over, under, over. And then we can look here on our extra diagram, right here, under, over, and then we'll come up on this next rounded corner. And you can turn your diagram to help you work with whichever dominant hand you have, so you get a better angle at the project. So here we go with my needle, under, over, under, over. Okay, and then pull it through. Might have to remove a couple pins just so it can sail through okay, like that. And it got a little twisted, but that's easy to fix. Okay, and now we're coming up to that last section right here. I can take my needle off. I have just this one last part where I'm going to meet up with where I began. And if you followed the directions for the cord, you should be able to have it meet up nicely, just like that. And there you go. You've woven the Celtic knot. And all our joins, all those cord ends are hidden underneath, so you can't tell where one begins and one ends. So now what I'd like to do is the 2 square or cord 2s, I want to pin across where those beginning and ends were. So I'm just going to take the pins out from standing up and down and try to grab them on. This will just help keep everything in place. I don't want all this hard work to come undone. And I'll do that over here where the green path started. But if you wove the cord correctly, everything should lock in place nicely, and you shouldn't have any problem with it coming apart. and then you can remove all the other pins. And there you go. And then if we were to look on the other side, you can tell that it's the wrong side with all the dashes. And what you want to do next is you want to sew those two other cord ends together, just like we did before. So you could see here, I can take those pins out and I can see the end of the green cord. I'm just going to use these yarn tails and sew this together so it stays in place. And I'll do that with the gray cord as well. So here is our completed woven knot. And now we're going to add some rounds around it. So if you did your knot all in one color, this is what it would look like. So you have the two versions. And when you put it all in one color, it's hard to see all those parts that we just wove. It looks more complicated than it actually is. And we're going to add 2 rounds to make the square a more square shape. Okay, so in order to do this, we want to look at the diagram again. And you'll see here at the top, there is number 1, 2, and 3. This is calling attention to this section right here. So you could see number 1 right here, this point is where the pink cord and the white path cord meet up. So we're going to put a stitch right in there. And then the same thing here where the white and the green cross in this little valley right here. We're going to put a stitch there. And for the green and the blue, we're going to put a little stitch there. And if you look and turn your diagram, every side looks the same with a valley, 3 valleys here. And then we have this rounded part for the corner. 3 valleys. And then if you look at the diagram again, you can also see that these cord sections I've labeled with A, B, and C. So we'll be working some short stitches along the top here, and then we're going to do a bunch of stitches to make this into a pointed corner. And again, if you turn, you see that you have section A, B, C, and A, B, C on every side. And just keep in mind that if you are left-handed, you're going the opposite direction. So you still follow these directions, you'll just be working in the opposite direction. So this will actually be 1, 2, 3 for you, and it will be A, B, C. Okay? And your whole knot will be in the reverse. But don't worry about that. Just listen and follow along the same steps that we're doing here, and you'll be just fine. Now you might want to use the color that you used for your edging, but again, I wanted this green square to blend in with the rest of my bag. So I'm going to use a nice bright green, and I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook. And I'm going to start right up in here. Let me zoom in. I am going to be using some stitch markers as well to help me find the corners for round 2. So right here we have number 1 where these 2 cords meet. So I want to count back 3 stitches from here. So I think I'm going to put the valley stitch right in this one. So I want to count back 3. 1, 2, 3. So this stitch is the one I'm going to go into first, and I'm not going to work into this stitch at all because I want this pretty braided look to stay on the front of my project. So I'm going to work in this stitch back here, this loop. Do you see that? And because of my slip stitch edging, I have this nice line of loops on all of my cords that I can work right into. And if you want it to be doubly secure, you can put your hook through another loop on the back, whichever loop you want, really. I just pick the next one I can find. So this way, when my bag is pulling and being used, these stitches don't create big gaps around my knot. Now I'm going to join with a half double crochet, which means I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch, then yarn over, pull through the stitch, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through everything. If you'd like to see that again slower, you can click on this link right here. Now I'm going to work 2 more half double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. Okay, so 1, and then in the next one here, 2. Okay, now I'm going to work in this valley, and you could pick where you want to work. You could work into a stitch on this cord, so I could work into this one, or I could work into a stitch over here. Now the only thing I want to make you aware of is that when we work across these 2 bumps that are on every side, we're going to work 4 single crochets. So I want to make sure that I can have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches across the top of each of those humps. So sometimes that means that I have an extra stitch, so I'm going to put the tall valley stitch here, and other times it means, I think I'll put it in here because I don't want a gap. So it's up to you. So I'm going to put the tall valley stitch over here, and it's going to be a double crochet. So yarn over, and then insert my hook into those loops on the back, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2, through 2. And by putting a tall stitch down in the valley, it helps the top of our stitches be nice and even. Now I'm going to put a single crochet in each of these 4 stitches along the top. And like I did before, every time you go to do it, I just like to look ahead and make sure that I have room for 1, 2, 3, 4. And I do. Okay, so now we're coming up on our next valley, and I'm going to look ahead to this hump here, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I might put the valley stitch right on this. So I want to count back 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think I'll work into this one back here and not this one up front. So I'm going to do a double crochet again. Now, if for some reason as you're working on this, it's just too complicated for you, you can always just crochet a simple square using double crochet back and forth, and then you can applique this Celtic knot motif on top. So if you'd rather not try to figure out this edging, that is an alternative to you. And just so you know, this square is 5 inches across. So if you just make a crochet square that's 5 inches across with double crochet, go back and forth until you have 5 inches up and down as well, then you're all set, and you can just applique or sew your knot onto the front of the square. So now we're going to do the 4 single crochets across our next hump here. One, two, three, and 4. Okay. And now we have another valley. So we're going to work a double crochet right in here. And as I'm approaching this corner, I know that I'm going to need 7 stitches along here. So I'm going to make sure I go back from where it meets up with the other cord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need 7 stitches, so I'm going to put the valley tall stitch in this cord. So all 7 are freed up for my corner. So every corner you're going to need 7 available stitches. And there's my double crochet. Okay? So what we just did here, we're going to repeat around all sides. But let's do the corner. So when we approach the corner, like I said, I want to make sure that I have 7 stitches available. So I'm going to count back 7 from where it crosses with the other cord, that first valley on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to start the corner stitches right here. And I'm going to half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. I have 1, 2, 3, and now here is where the main part of the corner is, and I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in that spot, all in this one stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then I'm going to mark that chain 1 space with a stitch marker so it's easy to find my next round. And here I have 3 more stitches, and I'm going to do those half double crochets just like I did on the first part of the corner. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's what you should have so far. It's just a nice, simple, even edging that lets the different pattern of the woven knot really shine. And it's just like a nice, simple frame. So we're going to repeat that along all the edges, all the sides. Okay, so to review, you're going to double crochet in this valley, then 4 single crochets, double crochet again, then 4 single crochets, then double crochet again. Then for the corner, you're going to have 3 half double, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then 3 half double. Just so you can keep track of how you're doing, you should have 19 stitches along each side at the end of round 1. So you go from the stitch next to your chain 1 to the next chain 1 at the corner. So these stitches all across here, you should have 19. Here you can see I've gone almost all the way around with my first round of edging, and I'm here at that first corner that we only partially worked. Remember, we have 3 half doubles and then the double crochet in our first valley. So I want to work back 4 stitches. So here is my first stitch here, see? So this is going to be the corner with the chain 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to start my half double crochets right there. So I yarn over, put my hook through, 2 loops on the back, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3, and I have 2 more half doubles. So 1, 2, 3, and then this last stitch right here, I'm going to do the double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet right there in that same stitch. And then I'll mark the chain 1 with my stitch marker. And then to end the round, I'm going to do a slip knot right in the top here, a slip stitch, sorry, right in the top of my first half double crochet of the round. Yarn over and pull through everything. Okay? And there you go. That's round 1. That's the trickiest, probably trickiest part of the whole project after weaving that last cord in. So now we're just going to stack some stitches on top to complete our square. Now let's start round 2 for our edging to the woven knot. So you're going to chain 3 and you're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 7 stitches. So yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull through 2 twice. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so remember, because we didn't start right at the corner, we started a little bit in. 7 stitches here takes us to the middle stitch of the round, see, which lines up with the middle of our Celtic knot, and we're going to put 2 double crochets in that center stitch. 1, 2. And then we're going to work double crochet all the way across to our chain 1 space. So there should be 9, but if you did everything okay last round, you don't have to count. You just head towards that stitch marker. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And here we are at our corner, and we're just going to put 2 double crochets in that chain 1 stitch. 1 and 2. Okay, so we're basically just going to do that same thing all the way around. Same thing on each side. But now that we're starting here at the corner, we're going to work 9 double crochets, then 2 in the center stitch, then 9 across, and then 2 in the corner. So I'll do this complete side for you. So you want to make sure that you're finding this first stitch right here. I can zoom in a little bit if that would help. So here's our chain 1 space at the corner, and this next stitch is our first one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and now we put 2 right here in the center stitch. 1, and go right back into that same stitch. And now we work across to our chain 1 space, which should be 9. here we go. Our chain 1 space at the corner, 2 double crochets in there. 1, 2. Okay. So across each side, if you were to count from the corner, in between the 2 double crochets at the corner would be where each side started. You would have 22 stitches. Here I've gone all the way around with my round 2, so I have 22 stitches along each side, and I've come up to my last corner. I'm going to take out the stitch marker and put 2 double crochets into that corner. 1, 2, and then you want to be very careful. This is your last stitch, so I want to make sure I slide these over so I can get my hook into the top of that last stitch for another double crochet, and then the starting chain 3 is right here, and I'm going to put a slip stitch right into the top of that starting chain 3, and that finishes round 2. So now that I'm finished, I'm going to cut about 6 to 8 inches, yarn over, pull through to make a nice knot. Now if you would like, you can weave in all these ends at this point, especially if you're ahead of the game and you're just waiting for the next section of our pattern. I recommend just taking some time while you're watching a movie or listening to a podcast on your headphones and simply weave in these yarn tails. Now what you can do is you can also take this time to just sew some of the gaps together. You don't have to do this. It just makes your knot that much more secure. So you see how there's a gap here only if you pull on it. So I could just work the yarn tail down to that gap and just pick up a loop, making sure I pick up a loop on the back of both sides of the cord and pull it close, and then a loop on another one. So this is an optional step. Another thing you could do if you don't want to do all this finicky sewing on the back of your knot. It doesn't take long though if you, like I said, watching a movie, because you don't need to concentrate too much for this. I just make sure that I'm hiding the same color so it doesn't show. Same color yarn tails within the same yarn. But another option, if you don't want to do all that, you can just tie these in a knot so they don't come loose, like this. Tie it in a double knot, and you could weave in, just simply weave in both ends together. Again, I see it popping up a little, so I'm going to take this time to anchor it a little bit to the cord next to it, like so, and just around here where it's the same color, just a couple loops. So I didn't do a lot of sewing there. I just did some, tied them in a knot and wove them in a very short distance, clipped them off. And then what you could do is you could take some felt, matching, or you could do contrasting. It's always nice when you have a bag that the inside is light so you can see your things. So you could use some felt, some fleece, or some cotton fabric, and you can use some matching sewing thread and sew a lining to the back of both of your squares. And that would make it really nice and finished off and help everything stay together nicely. But that's optional. So you want to do this to your other Celtic knot, and then we'll be ready to work on the next section of our bag. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell so that you are notified when I post the next video in our Celtic Knot Bag Crochet-a-long. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Happy crocheting!